short excerpt from my self-published novel. I'm not reading the entire thing, don't worry. And if the names sound familiar to you, come talk to me afterwards and we can have a very cool chat. This is an excerpt from chapter 18 of Till the Road and Sky Align. Cincinnati by night was all shining lights and the low silhouettes of buildings against the dark and cloudy sky, the bridges guarding it, glowing like strings of pearls as they approached. Adam could imagine it from above, a spark of life in the gently rolling hills, with the bridges over the Ohio River keeping the city tethered to Kentucky, like the ropes of a great balloon in a Thanksgiving parade. He would never get tired of this, he thought, seeing a new city unfurling before him, buzzing with potential, its history, attractions, and people waiting for him to discover them as if he were an expected guest. His camera captured the smears of light as they passed over the Daniel Carter Beard Bridge, and he couldn't bring himself to care that the photo probably wouldn't be up to his own artistic standards. It captured how he was feeling, the blurred pinpricks glowing like stars and echoing the sparks of excitement flooding his bloodstream. His hand squeezed the camera slightly, feeling the cool plastic dig into his palms. Adam had long since mastered the art of masking the leaping joy and pitching sadness inside him with the neutral, slightly bored-looking expressions the people around him were accustomed to seeing. He'd expressed himself too readily as a child, and had quickly learned to disguise it, to hold his hand still and not laugh too loud, to cry quietly and not bite his lip until it bled. Sometimes his feelings burst through, but he was always quick to push them back down. Lawrence seemed to know, though. He kept shooting Adam glances, and each twitch of Adam's expression, each traitorous flick of his lips, each quick, eager, darting glance made the other man smile. They picked the first ADA-compliant hotel Lawrence's eyes fell on in their guidebook, some chain hotel in the downtown area with fussy carpeting and a persistent smell of bleach in the large bathroom. Adam didn't particularly care, more fixated on the list of restaurants that he immediately snatched up from the nightstand of his twin bed. "What do you think of fish and chips for dinner?" he asked, eyes catching on a somewhat touristy-looking English pub. Lawrence hummed agreeably, flicking his hair off his forehead with the back of his palm. "That sounds wonderfully appealing, maybe a pint as well." "You gonna catch me up on your culture?" Adam teased, already moving to unfold his wheelchair. He noticed the slight stiffness in Lawrence's movements as they'd left the car together, and he knew it wouldn't be long before he would want to give his leg a rest. Maybe play the lads at footy in the morning? The look Lawrence shot him held a pleasant mix of exasperation and amusement, and Adam basked in it as the doctor eased into the offered wheelchair. "Only if you give me a taste of buffalo culture, too." "I would, but you don't seem the type to enjoy getting baked and picking fights with geese in Riverside Park." Lawrence chuckled at that, and Adam's smile widened. "I can teach you some moves, though. The key is to avoid their beaks." "I'll take your word for it." He wheeled himself through the door, and Adam followed, slipping his key card into his back pocket. The restaurant was crowded enough that Lawrence had a little difficulty maneuvering to their table, nearly running over the toes of a man sitting alone at the table adjacent to them. The small space echoed with laughter and cheesy Celtic-sounding music, and Adam felt himself relaxing even further in the warm atmosphere. He stuck to his initial order of fish and chips, while Lawrence went for a trout dish that arrived steaming hot. The idle conversation between them was eased not only by the pints of beer that Lawrence ordered for them, but also by the familiarity between them that Adam was still in awe of. Lawrence was an exceptionally easy person to talk to, and the silences that occasionally fell over the table were comfortable rather than icy. It was still such a new thing, being this sure of himself around someone so obviously smarter and more worldly. I don't think we stood out in West Virginia as much as you'd anticipated," Lawrence said after they had ordered their second round. "I felt very welcome." "Yeah, me too." Adam twirled a french fry between his fingers. "I don't know why I was worried. I always just get this feeling that I either blend too much into the background or that I'll stand out like a sore thumb everywhere I go. I don't know. I don't like feeling judged." Lawrence surveyed him curiously. "What are you afraid people will think of you?" Adam took a sip of his beer as he considered that. "I don't know," he said again, with an aborted huff of a self-conscious sigh. "It's hard to put it into words. I feel sometimes like I missed a day in school at some point, a day where I played hooky, where the teacher stood in front of the room and said, 'Okay, here's how to be a person. Here's what to say, here's what to do, here's how you date people and make friends and find out what your life's about.' Because it seems like everyone else learned at some point, and I've just been playing catch up my whole life. I guess I'm afraid people will be able to tell that I think of myself that way." They both fell silent, and Adam took note of the twitch in Lawrence's eyebrows as he glanced over the crowd behind him. He seemed to be searching for the right words to say, and Adam was more than content to wait for him. I think a lot of people feel that way, Lawrence said eventually. There's no one correct way to be a person. Yeah, I know. Lawrence's eyes were tinged with gray in the warm light of the restaurant as he held Adam's gaze. What do you think people see when they look at you? He didn't want to answer that. The truth would ruin the meal, the evening. The last thing he wanted was to cast a pall over Lawrence's open, relaxed face, to force him into playing therapist for a few hours. It wasn't fair to him. The dictionary definition of just some guy, he said instead, grinning. It wasn't a total lie, at least. Adam didn't think he'd ever be able to lie to Lawrence. They'd probably assume I'm on my way to crash a house party with an acoustic guitar. I have that look, I think. Lawrence settled back in his chair, lips twitching amusedly. And what about me? What look do I have? The phrase devastatingly handsome sprang immediately to mind, as did the kindest man I've ever met. Charming, caring, a bit nerdy, wonderful. Not perfect, but damn near close. Someone I want to spend time with. Someone I can't get enough of. Someone that honestly, I thought you were a lawyer when I first saw you, Adam said, interrupting the treacherous flow of his own thoughts. The suit, the coat, all that. You looked rich, but not enough of an asshole to be haughty about it. Lawrence laughed. And what about her? He nodded to a woman at the table near them, with clouds of blonde hair and an infectious smile, laughing at something the person across from her was saying. What do you mean? What's her life story, do you think? Adam grinned, understanding the game. She seems like the kind of person who I'd bum a smoke from after a show. The type who always cheers the first and loudest for whatever band's on first, even if nobody else likes their music. Lawrence glanced over to a young man nearby. What about him? Adam took in his mop of curly hair, round glasses, the band tee that stood out as a bit too plump for the somewhat refined setting. I'd say he's an undercover agent, on the run from the authorities, deep cover. And the guy sitting next to him, he continued, noting the man about the same age, who reminded him a bit of Lawrence when it came to his placid expression and softly swooping hair. That's the next poet laureate of the United States. We're in good company. And him? Lawrence tilted his chin towards the man whose foot he'd nearly run over, a slightly nervous-looking guy with a wide forehead and eyes that seemed a size too small for the rest of his face. The man glanced over briefly, as if he'd heard them, and then looked back down at the notebook on his table. Wannabe novelist. See how he's looking around and then writing stuff down? He's taking notes. This place is going to be the setting for a mystery novel one day. A mystery novel, Lawrence grinned. Any good? Nah, he should have stuck to his office job. Lawrence laughed, deep and warm, and Adam felt the familiar fluttering ache ripple through him. See, the doctor began, setting his fork down on his empty plate. If you can make up that rich of a story just from looking at someone, I very much doubt anyone would see you as anything less than a person they'd like to get to know more. He peered fondly at Adam. That was my first impression of you. He went still at that, the smile freezing on his face. Yeah? I saw you from across the store, Lawrence said, and Adam's heart pounded in his ears, a skipping, off-tempo thunder. And I knew that I wanted to know you. I don't think you were ever a stranger to me. You were always someone I was going to find. Adam couldn't say anything to respond to that. There weren't any words he could find that wouldn't lay him completely bare. I wanted to know you too, he said softly, and Lawrence smiled, and the unsaid knowing in his eyes was enough. Thank you.